Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Tane, nice to see you. What have you put into your basket of knowledge since we last spoke?
Yeah, I think something I've been reflecting on from our last podcast and getting back into the swing of things with coaching has just been, I guess, the power of mentorship and I guess walking and doing the things that we advocate for. I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to teach others or trying to demonstrate to others without showing that we can actually go through it ourselves. And I think sometimes that stops somebody, especially from the first time trying something new or branching out. So actually being that branch or that handout and that help up along the way. For example, yesterday we had a pretty tough coaching session in terms of fitness and sand dunes and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess it was cool that by the end, a few of the girls, they didn't have to do another sand dune, but they're like, oh, yeah, can you come and do it with me? And that was a cool reflection to go, they've built that trust and they have that determination to do it, but they want to do it alongside me. And that's not to, I guess it's finding that balance between not doing it and taking away from their accomplishments, but also going, yeah, I'm happy to do it alongside you so that they can see that we don't put them in these situations or scenarios that we wouldn't put ourselves in. So it was really cool to, I guess, see that confidence and that ability to go, hey, I want to push myself, I want to challenge myself, but I think the cooler part of that is them actually going, but I want somebody to do that alongside me. And it's not just me and my individual journey, it's actually all of us in that same journey going towards the same goal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it reminds me of, you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk and walk the talk. Otherwise it's I mean it's cool, but when you do that, it just adds a different level of commitment, camaraderie, mentorship, and when you sweat together and you bleed together, you grow together. It's like the Band of Brothers, right? Band of Brothers, that's what happens, which is really, as Shakespeare said. I think it's a Shakespeare's quote from Hamlet. How did I know that? Wow, crazy. Could have read a book the other day about it, so that's how I know it. Cool and awesome. Thank you for that there. My learning from the other day is over the last week is basically how do you say no when you want to say yes? And that's all it is. Like how do you embrace the cut, or how do you say it's actually okay to say no to things without feeling that you have to do things? And I think I'm just gonna leave that there because there are a lot of us out there say yes to lots of things when we should say no, or we say no to lots of things when we should say yes. So it's a quandary out there. There's no answer to that there. There's no wise answer. Just a thinking for you to all think about. But hey, it's not about me and Tane. It's about our guests. And as you know, we scour the country and we scour the world for people that we think are interesting and amazing. And we know that everyone's amazing. Everyone's got a fantastic story to tell. Whether you believe it or not, I'm telling you right now today that everyone's got a great story to tell. And today's guest is someone that, really interesting. It's someone that I came across quite a while ago. And they just suddenly popped into my LinkedIn silently. And I mean silently because they were an observer, and then they became a poster, and then it became a poster, and the stuff they're posting was really cool. And then this person here sent me a message going, "Hey, it'd be awesome for one of my team members to be in your podcast." And I was like, "Hold up, forget about your team. We would love you to have on our podcast." And they said, "Yes, we'll jump on." And we are very lucky and very excited to have a chat today to Kenisha. Kia ora, Kenisha. Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Kenisha, for people who know nothing about you, who are you today on June the 26th, 2026?
I mean, I think I'm just a regular 17-year-old. Some people might disagree, but I guess to answer your question more directly, I'm the founder of REdefine Aotearoa, and I love the work I do.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to go back to you said something that you are just a normal 17-year-old, but others would disagree. Why would others disagree?
Um, I guess everyone's unique, and I think it's really important to, acknowledge that and kind of think, yeah, maybe you're just a regular 17-year-old, but you're also, you're the only one that's the most like you know. Um, I've had so many amazing experiences, and that's come through um, the privileged support that I've been able to receive, whether that's through scholarships, other opportunities, people just lending a hand. And I think that's allowed me to grow and develop and become the person I am today. So, yeah, I think that would be it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to dig deeper into that there because, as you said before, we had the word just, and in my world, we get rid of the word just and throw out the window because no one in the world is a just.
Uh-huh.
We just don't believe in, or I don't believe in that there because it's when we say the word just, and if you think about it with conversation, everyone goes just. It's always self-limits. It self-limits you and self-limits the way you think about yourself. And let's talk about the awesomeness that is not the just. Just before we jumped on, you spoke about getting a scholarship to go to your current school. Let's talk about that as a journey for you from the schooling that you were and how you ended up getting a scholarship to the school that you're at the moment.
Mm, formerly, I was educated in the public schools around where I lived, which is in West Auckland, and that was the world I knew for the longest time. I didn't get social media or anything until I was like year 10. So I didn't even know of St. Cuts, which is insane because they have such a big and prestigious reputation in New Zealand. But I'd heard of the school and the fact that they had offered scholarships through my neighbor, and I thought, why not have a crack? And everyone I knew who had applied didn't get it, but I was so, so stoked when I got the email um, saying that I did, which was so, so surreal. And yeah, it was such a privilege to go from one environment to another. And I'm really grateful for what that's been able to give me.
And if you go back and think about the scholarship application that you wrote, what do you think, from your perspective, was made you a good candidate for them to offer the scholarship to you?
Mm, I was very academic, and for a school that had a really big academic reputation, that definitely mattered. But I was also an athlete, and I was also working a job, which was probably really impressive to them considering how young I was, which was like 13 or 14 years old when I applied. So yeah.
Amazing. That's really cool. And I love to talk about that there because if to anyone listening out there that is in the same boat right now, what would you say to them if they go, right, cool, I see a scholarship application popping up for a school or a possibility. What would you say to them?
Acknowledge how unique you are as a person, which is kind of contradiction to how I introduced myself in the beginning. But yeah, just acknowledge that. And it's so important to realize that they're probably getting um, so many applications from so many people, and sometimes it gets really boring reading through everything. So make yourself stick out in any way possible, and it doesn't need to be something like incredibly impressive. It just needs to be something unique.
Yeah, my advice is always just apply. You have no, what's the worst that could happen? They say yes.
Exactly.
Or they say
Yeah.
no, and it doesn't change your life. If you say no, it doesn't change your life. If they say yes, it changes your
Yes.
life, right? So there's no difference.
Yeah.
So give it a crack, right? Give it a crack. And I'm
Of
gonna bring
course.
Tana here because Tana was the same boat when you applied for hands-on.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you've just got to put yourself out there, and sometimes I guess for me, it came from my science teacher actually reinforcing that I was capable of doing it. And I think you're right too. Like I guess the other point to that is to not try to um, compare yourself to others while you're doing the application because it's so easy to go, oh, like yes, you always know that there's other people applying, but it's easy to make up assumptions of, oh, it's going to be the best of the best, and who am I to be in that pot? But you never know. They could have the same feelings of, oh, I don't want to apply because I don't think I deserve a scholarship, or my parents could help me go there, or yeah, I guess my biggest takeaway, the more I've applied for different things, is that there's always going to be people that are applying for different reasons. You just have to remember why you're applying, and once you put it out there, it's up to somebody else to decide it.
Oh, of
Yeah,
course.
and that's so powerful. And Kenisha, I'm going to talk about something that you're really passionate about. So, let's talk about your I'm going to call it your baby at the moment because that's what I like to use it as.
Oh.
Let's talk about Redefine. Tell us about Redefine and what was the impetus to start that? No, maybe explain what Redefine is actually.
Redefine is a platform looking at bridging the gap and addressing the gap of systemic racism in youth mental health. And we aim to do that through our core pillars of our work, which is educate, connect, and then empower and advocate. Um, I think there's a really big misconception about why I started Redefine, and the only reason I did was because of my own experiences um, that I had of racism. But I actually started it in response to the rise that I saw in youth crime in my community, and I was going into these like public meetings and advocating for youth, and I was the only young person there, and I realized that a lot of that the reasons why youth commit crime were because of the lack of access to opportunities, because of the lack of resources available to them, because of these stereotypes they felt that they had to conform to or that were pushed onto them and the anger that made them feel, and the lack of mental health support. So I founded Redefine to kind of to give youth um, the platform to redirect their anger in a safe and um, sustainable way where they're able to actually see tangible change. We're currently doing a survey where we are hearing from members in our community, mainly youth, about how these experiences of racism make them feel, and it's so great to see that a lot of people are they feel angry, and one of the top three emotions that people associated with their experiences were anger, frustration, but um, my favorite one was motivation to make change. So I think it's really important to give them the opportunity to do that.
Amazing. And I love that and I can't wait to see, delve more into that there. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna delve into your experience. At the start you said your own experience. A lot of people, in fact, this is, across the board, anyone that creates something is from a lived experience or a lived
yeah.
or singular experience. So I mean if you mind sharing your lived experience of what you felt, that'd be pretty cool if you're comfortable sharing that there.
Oh yeah. My lived experience was when I was in year nine back at high school in Linfield College, where I would repeatedly hear the same awful things said to me by this one Pacquiao girl. And I remember how hopeless I felt, knowing that I could report her to the dean, but someone else did and they had no success. And none of the teachers cared because they knew how she was as a person. And I wasn't going to see any change. And that's why I didn't push myself to try get that justice. And it's it's an experience that stayed with me for a while. And yeah, no, I mean it was awful, but I think I've shared this a lot, so I'm like somewhat like desensitized from it, which is it's kind of sad. But I think what that experience has enabled me to do, which was advocate for my community, has given me so much more than I could have hoped for. So it does suck, but I do think I got a whole lot out of it than the other person that said whatever she said, you know?
Yeah. And what I what I love about that there is, when you think about in any one of these situations, and it happens all the time, whether we like it or not, it happens.
Yeah,
And I think we got to acknowledge that. So thank you for sharing that there. And actually, I'm gonna talk about that there. There's a um there's a unspoken reality that there's no racism in New Zealand. The word that
yeah.
goes out there.
I'm
So, and in other podcasts I've shared this, and I've shared this really openly in South Africa and other places when there was apartheid. It was very
yeah,
clear. It was very clear, and we're not saying we agree, but it was very clear that okay, if you're a certain color, you do this. Very clear. So you know where you stand,
yeah,
right? There's no questions here, which I think is it's not a good thing, but at least you know it's clear. Whereas in a lot of countries in the world, there is racism, but people choose to ignore it, or they don't say, "Oh, it doesn't
yeah.
exist because it's not as crazy as it was then." But as someone who now has had this happen, and I'm sure Tanya's has happened to you as well, it's happened to me a lot of times. And we're not saying it's everybody. Let's Chris, not saying everyone in the country, but when it does happen, it's very easy, like you said, to get brushed under the carpet and go, "Oh, it's just that person." But you chose to
Hmm.
to to to, to bring up a voice at a young age, and talk about this in perspective of you're a young person. Did you speak to your parents about this, or did you just hold it in?
It was so long ago. I don't really remember, but I bottled. Oh yeah, I bottled it in for a really long time. I think I kind of like cracked at one point and then like admitted it. But something you have to realize that a lot of parents aren't equipped to help their kids as well, and they're just as helpless as their kids. So I didn't receive the amount of support that I wish and I hope the next generation receives when they go through something like that. So a lot of what we do at Redefine is not only address helping um, the next generation, but also equipping parents with the tools that they need to help their kids and also teachers as well, and providing that kind of guidance.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that, and I love that it's all encompassing. But let's go
Yeah,
from you're in year nine and you started Redefine. Was it last year officially? Or
yeah,
yeah.
last year.
So how did we go from year nine, you have this experience happen, then life happens, to something developing?
Um, so I was on the Faux Youth Board. I joined it in year 11, and that was kind of like my sorry excuse for not staying in touch with my community and wanting to give back because I felt I like, I just transferred to cuts, and that was really, really different. And I just needed some sense of familiarity. And serving my community on the Faux Youth Board was a great experience to do that. And I love the opportunity of advocating um, for my community through that platform. But I kept on hitting, brick walls when it came to advocating against youth crime and preventative solutions instead of band-aid solutions. And I kept on hitting brick walls. And I remember going to a UN youth event, AYD, Aotearoa Youth Declaration. And I was on the media committee, so we were looking at negative stereotypes and accurate media representation. And I remember talking to the Minister of Youth, which was really, really cool. And I told him that I was hitting brick walls in my work, and he gave me um, advice on creating tools on preventing bullying, and that's not something I seemed incredibly interested in. But I went home and then I was scrolling on social media and I saw the amazing Lola Fisher um, promote applications for the Puawa project, and I was looking at the guidelines, I was looking at the submission guidelines, and I kind of took a spin on the Minister of Youth's idea, and I came up with Redefine, and yeah, and that was the beginning, I guess. And
I love the origin story, and I love how you actually I love. It's interesting how when you spoke to the Ministry of Youth, the advice you were given versus the reality. What is that like for you
yeah,
when you're like, hey, this is what's happening, and you're told this is the band-aid? What is it like for you? Because I said that to you because you go, right, cool. You could have easily gone, yep, cool, this is cool, but this is not actually what I'm trying to say.
mean, wait, could you rephrase that question,
Yeah,
please?
no, sure, no, totally, totally, totally. Basically,
Yeah,
you know when you spoke to the Minister of Youth and you told
yeah,
them exactly what's going on, they were like, yeah, yes, yeah, solution just anti-bullying, and you're like, actually, this is not what I'm trying to say. This is I'm saying one plus one is two. Sorry, one plus
yeah.
one is five, and you like no, it's one plus one is two. What is that? What did you feel frustrated after that, or did you feel like, well, what is
I
the?
didn't really feel frustrated. I mean, I was really vague when I was speaking about my experience. I wasn't as comfortable being outright because there were so many people standing next to me. So I was kind of like one plus, and then he's like two, and I'm like no three. Like one plus one is like one plus two is three. Yeah, no, um, no, it was a good idea to work with. It was probably something that was more aligned with the work that he was doing, but I take inspiration as inspiration, and to work with that was decent, decent enough. I have uh, no hard feelings really.
No,
It
awesome,
wasn't much
yeah,
frustration on my end.
yeah, no, and I love that because what I love about it is it's a reminder that everyone's perception of the world is a perception. And
Yeah,
when people try and help you, they're helping you from their worldview. So which is
yeah,
why it's not good or bad. It's just and then the reaction that you get is based on your own perception, which is why we
yeah,
have sometimes or we have so it's just a good reminder, when people are trying to but also all conflict comes from I teach into my coaching programs that all communication is the reaction it elicits. So
yeah,
it's not about the intended thing that you want to say. You could say
yeah,
something, but the reaction from the other person is what they're getting. So you can't blame them. You gotta go, but I meant this, and yeah, but I didn't get that. I got this. So
yeah,
it's a great reminder for us all that this is what happens in communication, and this is what happens in a podcast or in any media training. That you do the training, but actually in that moment, what you say, what you feel, is in that moment.
yeah,
And when you started after you started redefine and thinking about your community now, so you're a young person, right? You're young. You're 16 when you start this amazing platform. What are some of the challenges that you face at that age for such a pretty what's the word I want to use? A platform that is quite, hey, this is what's happening. So I'm not going to go with the confronting, but it's actually a growth platform
yeah.
that addresses something that is quite confronting.
Um, no, that's a really good question. I think something you have to realize is that as much as I came from a background that wasn't as privileged, I did then have access to privilege um through my school environment. And that's where I seeked where I sought out advice and support the most. Um, so it wasn't as difficult. I think the most difficult part of the process was truly just me overcoming that fear that was associated with that nobody wanted to care. Because it was so funny because you know I did email the Minister of Youth after I got support from Aotearoa and my platform was kind of taking off to some degree, and he supported me again. So, and I emailed my principal and she replied. So, I received a whole lot more support than I thought I was going to get. So, it's just a matter of reaching out to more people. And I guess that mental block of me not putting myself out there was the only thing that was limiting me the most. Um, I guess another barrier I faced was when we were kind of on the roll. My life did kind of take a turn in a not so great way when I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in July, and I was incredibly sick, and I was sleeping for 20 plus hours a day, and I wasn't able to get out of bed. Um, So that was really, really difficult, and I needed to seek out, people to help support me in my work. Um, so that's something that kind of changed in the way I operated, and I wanted to see to redefine grow because before I was keeping a lot of it to myself, but opening that platform for more people to join was a step I needed to take, and that kind of diagnosis forced me to take it earlier on.
It's really interesting you speak about that because today one of my good friends put a post on LinkedIn about burnout and blah, 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 blah. And I wrote an article a few months ago about burnout, and I'm looking back here because burnout is again what I said. We keep saying yes to a lot of things, and we're just adding to our plate. And we always the narrative out there is we blame burnout on other things. Like we blame burnout on
Mm-hmm.
too much work or whatever. But the argument that I placed was the argument is that we just keep saying yes to a lot of things, which is why we get burnt out. So, and I'm guessing in your case, what would have happened, the burnout would have manifested as an illness because you kept it all in. And then I'd love to know what happened when you just let it out and go, right, cool, I'm actually going to share this with the world. How did you feel at that point in time?
I mean, just to clarify, I do disagree with you when you synonymously use burnout and chronic fatigue interchangeably.
Yep.
Um, Chronic fatigue is a chronic illness. It wasn't something that was manifested through burnout. It was something that many high functioning people get after viral illnesses. And I think um, I guess in context of what me putting myself out there looked like in reading and like sharing Redefine Aotearoa with the people around me was I was sick and I needed to send out emails, and I couldn't take the next step until I took this one. And sometimes it was just a matter of you know um delegating that task to someone else. And I didn't delegate that task, technically. Someone reached out and they were like, can I just do it? Because I want to do it. So people are more willing to help. And I just needed to push myself to say, yes, you can take on that task. But I felt this weight of responsibility that I needed to do it because I was in charge of blah, blah, blah. Um, yes, I think just like relying on the support systems that I already had in place was something I needed to do. And yeah,
I love them. Thank you for no, no, thank you for helping us realize that burnout and chronic fatigue are two very, very different things.
yeah,
And they are very, very different things. And I say that because I was being cheeky with you because a lot of people use it interchangeably all the time, and
yeah,
so I'm really glad that, for anyone listening and also for myself and Tanya, that the two are very, very different. One's an illness and
yeah,
one's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you keep saying yes as one is very different, but we use them interchangeably.
yeah,
People go, hey, I've got this and this, but actually they're two very, very
yeah,
different things. And
yeah,
and but what I love is how you were honest about the fact that even though you were not well, you still held on to your
hmm,
baby and you had in your support because you were the boss of that. Like this is your baby, at the start.
yeah,
And just the mindset of you saying, hey, it's okay for me to let it go.
yeah. No, I was talking about this with someone who was helping me. It's really fancy to say that she's my personal assistant, but she's my personal assistant, and that's the role that she has. And she helps out as, more than just a personal assistant, but as a consultant, which is really great because she's able to provide that. Like, she's able to provide more accurate advice because she knows what's going on. So, yeah, no, it was more of a matter of her just like being like, can I just be a personal assistant and handle all the emails? And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
what's wrong with that? And yeah, I just had to like let go of it and say it's not that deep. It's just an email.
Yeah. And as you started letting that go, did you find that you then created the space to grow your team? The fact that you can actually, it doesn't have to just be me. I can actually have a team of people around me with me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had like a social media manager early on, and then we had someone who was interested in helping out with research. And it was kind of me doing all the other untitled roles, which weren't responsibility of those two other people. But yeah, no, it definitely did make me more confident leading a team. because, you know, and it also made me more confident. Just knowing I had it, like not all of the weight was put on me. Like if I wanted to do outward bound and go away for 3 weeks, someone else can handle it now because they know what's going on. If I had all the information to myself, no one else could kind of fill in um, if I ever wanted to do anything else. Yeah, no, I mean, I was so sick. Like, I was so sick. And chronic fatigue is an invisible disability. So I don't think it got to a point where I wasn't really concerned about what happened with Redefine. Like, it could have burned to the ground because I was far too concerned about worrying if I was going to burn to the ground. So, yeah, I just had to prioritize what I did and did not care about. And at the time, it just made more sense to care about me than like care about my baby, which sounds really sad, but I had to let go of it. Yeah.
And I'm really glad you said that because I don't know if you know Neville Ravikant, it's pretty crazy author and creator of things. And in his book, he writes a line, and then the line is so powerful that goes, um, the first thing that I prioritize in my life is my health. That's it.
Yeah.
And then it goes, my health comes first. Because without
Yeah.
health, everything disappears. And what you just said right now was, hey, at that point in
Yeah.
time, the whole world can be on fire, but if your health is not okay,
Yeah.
you cannot go take a pail of water because you've got to look after yourself. And
Yeah.
and I love that because a lot of us don't do that there. A lot of us we work through illness, we work through sickness, we have to do these things here, but it takes that moment to go, actually, my health is my health and I'm gonna look after it. And Tanya, I'd like to
Yeah.
bring you in here because you've been through this as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. Sometimes you sometimes you also just forget to look after yourself. It seems like a
Yeah.
basic fundamental that we we all do, and we all advocate for it. And oh yes, we want good health, but I think sometimes, especially when you're young, when you can do everything and there is little to no repercussions, you almost forget that health is another pillar of your life that you need to maintain. We focus so much on social and other aspects of our life that we almost forget the health component. So I think it's very important that you find what helps you in that health space too. And I think that's probably the journey I've been on too. Is I've always been sporty and physically active and stuff like that, but now it's about how do I change that to fit how I am now. What I used to do 5, 10 years ago isn't going to be the same as what I do now, and it's all right to change because I think sometimes we get too scared or too stuck in, oh, yes, I've always played netball or rugby or I've always been a runner. And now I don't feel like running, so what's wrong with me? And it becomes a personal attack rather than going, actually, just at this
Hmm.
point in time, going for a walk or
Yeah.
going for a hike or a swim or whatever it might be. A change of scenery can actually really help you as well.
Yeah. No, I do agree. I was an athlete. I was someone who was making myself like train when I was sick or compete when I was sick, and that was such a normal environment. So it's so easy to forget about those kind of things.
Yeah, and again, because in the moment you don't think about that, you think about the thing, whatever the thing is, insert work, athlete, whatever it is, insert that
Mm-hmm.
then health takes a toll. Um, so we talk about redefine, we talk about this awesomeness of your journey, but if we park there a second and talk about the other awesome things that you do, let's talk about the future problem solving. You dabbled in that, and then boom, what happened to that there? Do you explain, tell people what future problem solving is as well?
Yes. Oh my God. I love future problem solving. I love being involved with it. A lot of people at my school, there's like this negative stereotype, but I really didn't care. I started future problem solving this year, which is so funny because I remember walking into that first meeting that they're having because my friend was like complaining about, oh, I probably should say this then. My friend was complaining about going to the meetings and stuff in the training sessions. And I was like, why are you complaining? This sounds like my thing. I love this kind of thing. So I remember going in and the teacher in charge was like, "You should enjoy your lunchtime. Like, this is you're not gonna be able to catch up. This is a lot of work." And then at the end of the training session, she was like, "No, you're amazing," because I like made the effort to be like to absolutely show myself off and like show how engaged I was and how willing I was to put in the work. And I'm like a really big reader, so I loved looking at a situation and like at an issue and observing it from multiple angles um, is really great. Now, future problems, amazing because it teaches youth how to do systemic think, like how to do systems level thinking. And that's something I've applied to redefine when we're looking at systemic racism, so how that fosters in the healthcare system, how that fosters within schools, and how that and how negative media representation affects youth crime and things like that. So no, I love future problem solving so much, and I was so grateful to work alongside an amazing team and compete with them. And we placed first in New Zealand, and we qualified for the US international finals next year. Oh, this year.
This year, right? And
This
for
year.
people who, yeah, this year exactly. For people who don't know what future problem solving is, do you want to tell them what future problem solving actually is?
Um, Future problem solving is a six-step process. So there's a topic. A lot of the topics that we did last year for just practice stuff was like food security, agriculture. It was so weird when the final, like the big competition, the national final topic was nanotechnology, and I had like no background in nanotechnology whatsoever, and learned a lot from that. And no, I'm sorry, I'm not answering this question properly. Future problem solving is a competition where students around the world compete regionally, then nationally, then internationally, and there are many divisions. I believe there's like an individual division, a team division, and I compete in the team division under the global issues category. So we look at global issues and look at systemic thinking and how and what these industries would look like in 50 years time, which is so it's really interesting, and it kind of rewires the way you think because you might think, oh yeah, AI is going to be big in the next like 5 years, but in 50 years, what would that look like? AI might not even be the thing then. It just might be like, it just might not be relevant at all. What would the industry look like then? What kind of automation would we have on, farming, things like that. So that's why I thought future problem solving was really cool.
I love it. I love that how we yeah, it's pretty crazy because you don't know what the world does look like. We live in the present,
Yeah.
but it's pretty awesome to be able to stretch your mind and go, what if, what if, what if? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just the way you bring your argument across, or your the way
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, which is really, really cool. Talking about the future and problem solving, if we were going to think about redefine in a year's time or in a 2 years' time, what would you like redefine to shift? It could be tinily, it could be massively in in I guess maybe Auckland or New Zealand or the community. What would you like to see happening?
I would like to see a culture shift in the way that we talk about racism and how that's discussed within schools, families, and within policy and decision making. So that's the so that's what I'd like to see in like 2 years, 2, 3 years time in regards to the effect that Redefine and has created. But within Redefine itself, I'd love to see us creating materials which are used continuously and growing our team and getting so many more people involved in the work that we do.
Amazing. And for anyone out there who would like to get involved with Redefine, are there any what are they to do?
What do they have to do?
Yeah.
We're this is kind of early, but we're planning on opening our second recruiting round sometime in the next 1 to 2 months, which is really great and really early considering that we wrapped up our first recruiting round not too long ago. Um, but we'll make sure to advertise that. So keep an eye out for it. And there's a short, so you submit, so the way the process works is that you submit your application, we screen it, isn't a major thing, and we read it, and then we get back in touch with you for an interview, and then we see what work you can help us with.
Amazing. Amazing. That's just someone who wants to work with you. What about someone who wants to be an ally for Redefine? So you have those who are like, yeah,
Um,
cool. What about allies? How do they work with you?
mhm. um, we're a platform that actively seeks out feedback and community voice. So we have initiatives like the survey that we're currently running to understand what people would like to see from our platform, and there's always an opportunity to give your to give your insight through that. We're also planning on running initiatives involving artists all across Aotearoa. So keep an eye out for I'll call out on our social media platforms, but we're also so incredibly keen to partner with any organizations that you would like to see us work with and things like that. So allies just need to be on the lookout for a call out because trust me, we'll be wanting to hear your voice very soon.
Awesome. Talking about hearing your voice, Bruce. So what is it like for you being featured in the post?
Oh, that was really cool. I remember like waking up and I was checking like my emails and someone from Youthline who helps support our work um, was like, "Oh yeah, no worries." I was so like she was like, "Oh, I was more than happy to help out with your work." She was like, "I saw you guys in the post, and I thought that was so cool to like watch you grow." I was like, "We're in the post? What?" And I had to search my name up and everything, and it was amazing that feature. It was a great thing to wake up to. I think I saw it maybe like 1, 2 days late after it was posted, but yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you get recognized by people who see your work and they don't ask you to be recognized. I think that's the greatest form of recognition when it comes from elsewhere, as opposed to when you apply to be recognized, which is cool.
Yeah,
But when it comes from
yeah,
elsewhere, that's even better. That's my own
yeah.
personal
I was
thought.
working on a paid project with Voices of Hope and
Yeah.
Changing Minds, which was so cool. And you know, when someone like looks at you because they like recognize you, but they're like not sure, so they're like doing a double take. Um, no, there's someone across the room who's doing her double take, and I was like, wait, what? And we had like a break, and she was like, "Are you that CEO?" And I'm like, "What? CEO of what?" And she's like, "Redefine." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah." And it was so good to kind of like to see that we were um admired and supported by our community, and that wasn't because um yeah, and no, it's just to see that love for our community was really, really great. And
Love it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the impact that you feel and see when you don't seek it. That's the best
yeah,
kind of impact, right? Yeah.
yes.
Tana, any questions from you?
I guess one question from me would just be around, obviously you're very passionate about Redefine, and that's awesome. I guess for me, it's how do you see yourself carrying or maintaining that passion and that energy for the project? We probably see a lot of young people passionate about very or different projects, different ideas, and then obviously you've still got school, you've got work, you've got life that happens. So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, my question would be, how do you see yourself maintaining that energy and that momentum that you're starting to build with the recognition you're getting now, so that you can continue to grow your platform and the concept as a whole?
No, no, I love that question. I guess I've got hit with the worst when it comes to talking about how my health was impacted um and how that challenge was reflected in my work. And I argue that even though I went through something difficult, we were still able to grow as a platform and do amazing work, which is why I believe that no matter what, um, we will continue to create great output. And that's the ideal situation. But like I said earlier, it was more of a matter of, relying on the support that I have from my team and growing our team so we can keep up with the work that we do. And I think something that I really appreciate and what I did myself was which was seek advice from experts in the field. So I walked into Youthline and asked for help from someone who is qualified, and they were keen to help me out. And I think that saved me a lot of time in um, in regards to going down the wrong path and wasting my effort on doing something that wasn't going to give me the ROI that I wanted. Um, so yeah, that's two things that I think will help sustain us as a platform.
What's really, really beautiful there, Kenisha, is the fact, and a reminder to us all that there are experts out there. Use them. There's
Yeah.
subject matter experts all around for so many different things, and we all try and do things ourselves when actually someone has studied or has done stuff in this very area, and this is their livelihood.
Hmm.
Why are we trying to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel? And we do that all the time, right? So we go, actually, hey,
Yeah.
let me just go and ask them. So it's really awesome that you've done that there. And it's a reminder to myself and I guess to Tana as well that there's specialists out there. Seek their help.
Yeah.
Because each one of us are our own specialists in our own field. So we go, right, cool. I think about it this way here. There are people that have studied how to build websites. This is their jam. This is what they do all day, every single day. Why just not go
Yeah.
and ask them to build a website for you as opposed to spending hours and frothing about it when that's just their
Yeah.
job? It's just a simple example, but none of us would go, oh, we'll just build our own Wix or on Squarespace. Cool, cool, we can do it there. But we could use that time to do something else in our own passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you've done that there. That I'm grateful for sustaining, like Tanya asked, the sustenance of your energy and the actual thing that you really want to achieve.
Yeah. Exactly.
Initially, we've been speaking for almost an hour. Um, time flies when you're having fun, and it's been really, really cool. And I'm sure there's so much depth we can get into. But I value your time, especially on a
Yeah.
Monday night on Auckland anniversary. And school is starting in a few days' time, so you want to enjoy the sunshine
Yeah.
while it's out at the moment. But we have one question for you. We ask every
Hmm.
single guest on our podcast this question here, and you've shared lots of amazing wisdom today.
Hmm.
Our podcast is called Pastors Knowledge. We'd love for you to share one piece of knowledge to put into our basket for myself, for Tanya, and for our listeners from any aspect of your life.
Hmm. I guess the advice that I share is both I mean this both literally and metaphorically. When you walk into a room, be friends with the bodyguard in that room, the person that has the overhead view of everything and that's willing to help you out whenever something might go to shit. Yeah, find your bodyguard.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I always tell people to find the champion, but I love the fact that you've used bodyguard. Yeah, be friends with whatever you work, be friends with a bodyguard. I love that. That is so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that there. Tanya, any last questions, thoughts, comments? No, can you share anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? Because you've just touched a little bit about your life, but is there anything else that you think our listeners should know about your world and your work? And
Hmm. No, I hope you guys have an amazing day.
no, thank you for jumping on, Kenisha. Thank you for sharing, the message that you have there. Thank you for enlightening us on, what the work that you do, but also for the fact that, hey, it, I always really enjoy talking to young people because, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still make an impact in the world. So I really love
Yeah.
it. For listeners out there, hopefully you are feeling inspired, you're feeling educated, you're feeling empowered to do what you need to do in the world by listening to Kenisha's um, words today. And if you haven't, I'll go back and listen again because you've probably fallen asleep. And it's okay to fall asleep, but come back and listen to the podcast. That's what we want you to do. So until next time, listeners, don't forget to keep smiling or find a reason to smile. Don't forget to put something in your box of knowledge. And like Kenisha said, whenever you step into a room, don't forget to find your bodyguard and say hello to them. Till next time, ka kite. Thank you, everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.